Hello, I'm Dumbadze from Batumi, Georgia. I'm an assistant professor at Batumi State Maritime Academy. First of all, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here to be taking part in this event. Thank you very much. Now I will share the presentation and start with it. The title of my presentation is Significant Factors for Developing Effective Intercultural Communication and Their Inclusion in the Language Learning Process. As for the aims of the study, study aimed to identify the significant issues for developing effective communication in the global business world, at sea or in some other work-related domains, and underscore their involvement in the language learning process. The survey data obtained from professionals and students indicated substantial issues faced regarding effective communication. The researchers also utilized the observation method that helps to disclose some problems concerning language comprehensibility and intelligibility. And finally, the study emphasized the significance of the inclusion of all the uncovered aspects in the learning process from a teacher's angle. As for the post-pandemic situation, the global relations, we can say that nowadays global communication has increased immensely, and the pandemic situation has apparently made it more intense. So professionals from different fields, even students of various countries, without covering some distance and losing time in traveling, easily meet online in one virtual space to exchange attitudes, expertise, approaches that undoubtedly makes the global relations tight and fair. Here comes a quotation. The times when interacting by reading and writing was sufficient are gone, and the globalized world where no distance is big enough takes its own rules. Nowadays, to be successful, we need to communicate face to face, or at least monitor to monitor. And how we express ourselves orally plays an essential role in international establishing relations of any nature. Communication across the world is becoming more and more vigorous. Being an effective communicator is no longer a nice skill for some. It is absolutely a required skill for everyone to possess. Connecting with others is a key to building relationships and improving performance. And as for teaching and students, the topic at issue is to teach students developing good communication, to enable them apply the language meaningfully, properly, and intelligibly. There always comes an immense accent on 4 essential skills of English. But sometimes when it comes to speaking, we assume that less focus is made on pronunciation. We can say that pronunciation is directly connected with nationality, because in some languages a word is pronounced as it is spelled, while in others it is not. In some languages, some letters do not exist in others, and everything this causes immense problems with pronunciation. In our study, the observation method was used. We had 200 students, we observed Georgian students. 76 out of 200 made pronunciation mistakes. Some of these problems make a difference in meaning that can be the cause of ambiguity in conversation. The problems is highlighted with the words like dependent, different, cheap and chief, and so on, because in Georgian language we do not have the letter F. And Georgian students are confused with using them. Instead of P, they sometimes say F. Instead of F, they sometimes pronounce P. So learners with good English pronunciation are likely to be understood even if they make errors in other areas. Whereas learners with bad pronunciation will not be understood even if their grammar is perfect. Such learners may avoid speaking in English and experience social isolation, employment difficulties, and limited opportunities for further study. We judge people by the way they speak. So learners with poor pronunciation may be judged as incompetent, uneducated, or lacking knowledge. Still, sometimes a little emphasis is made on pronunciation due to lack of time at lesson, because the focus is made on other areas of the language. Believe that people can still communicate despite their accent and pronunciation. Attitudes that students can work on a pronunciation on their own with dictionaries. And another prominent issue is cultural intelligence. The cultural phenomenon is so diverse and rich in content that its inclusion in learning process is strenuous but indispensable, as it plays a crucial role in successful communication. A lack of cultural knowledge can cause ambiguous situations that end with misunderstandings and confusion, and dozens of instances prove it. Postgraduates must be ready for intercultural relations. So while teaching it is substantial to underscore the importance of intercultural discourse competence. Culture, this is one word that implies lots of things in it, like religions, behavior, rituals, customs, language, beliefs, and so on. Almost all the students know that cultures differ, but not only half of them realize how these differences can arise some problems in communication. Communicative competence is more and more extended, leading to intercultural discourse competence. Discourse competence comprises the ability to produce appropriate, correct, understandable texts and messages. As culture differs, body language differs as well. Something that can be considered acceptable for one nation may appear insulting to others. It may happen that the same gesture in diverse cultures may have a completely different meaning. So researchers from all over the world are recommending to gain as much insight into the concept of nonverbal communication as possible, so as not to miss out on certain critical elements that could expose a person to unwanted circumstances. Consequently, all the factors mentioned above are crucial for building rapport successfully and must be included in the course. The survey that was done in this study asked professionals and students one of the same questions to reveal how they look to the similar issues, if they look differently or in the same way. And the very first question included in the questionnaire was, has the significance of English raised during the pandemic or epidemic situation? Both types of participants in the survey agree that the pandemic situation contributed to the popularity of English. However, due to intense global communications, the result is slightly different for professionals, as more professionals meet online. The second question, is the English language greatly connected with landing a dream job? Both categories of participants consider English as a prominent factor in the job finding procedure, but the students consider it even more important since they are more involved in the job selection process. They are more sensitive to this issue. The third question, can you successfully establish communication in multinational companies in case of knowing good English? According to the answers, knowing good English is mostly enough to develop communication in multinational companies. But the following questions are risen, like, do you consider GE and ESP sufficient for developing good communication? Besides knowing GE and ESP, we will list there are some other factors to comprehend to communicate well. Many things can be highlighted. Some are given below in the survey questionnaire. For example, the question, do you consider pronunciation and utterance essential for establishing good communication? Both students and professionals consider pronunciation essential, but the picture depicts professionals better see it, and some of the students still need to apprehend the problem more. Next question, do you consider culture as a prominent point in international relations? It's clear that some of the students understand the importance of cultural competence in international relations quite well, but professionals see the problem better. Consequently, it's important to convey their attitudes to all students, to put them in the picture so that they can evade some awkward situation in future. And the last question, can body language be vital in communication? Professionals comprehend quite well that not knowing some unacceptable gestures or body language can emerge many troublesome situations in multinational companies. It can be the reason for business closure or collapse, negotiation failure, and more. Many facts prove this. However, students understand this less. They know that body language matters, but half of them consider it vital, while another half think it matters, but not too much. And here comes the conclusions. So it is essential to acquire knowledge of many aspects, and different factors make it really, especially in the desire to land a job in multinational company. Numerous factors are to be taken into consideration to make the conversation intelligible, comprehensible, and acceptable for international relations, like good knowledge of English, good general English, good English for specific purposes, right pronunciation, cultural competence, and body language. It stays arduous for a teacher to convey all these to students. It is effortful and energy consuming for a teacher to find approach to encompass all these factors in the learning process. But to have postgraduates who will be ready to face all these challenges in real life, it is crucial to deal with them. It is unbelievable to teach all the culture around the world as it is comprehensive and all embracing. But what should be taught is to be careful while utilizing some gestures or behavior in a particular way in multinational crew or company. Cultural competence is crucial nowadays. Learners can find pronunciation the most challenging aspect to obtain, as there are many details to acquire, which apparently make it hard, like similarities of pronunciation in mother language and foreign language, that is mainly the effect of borrowing. Absence of some letters in mother language, fossilized errors that can be the most effortful to amend. Learners need the direct help of a teacher in this aspect. Some pronunciation instructions are substantial in class. Students must comprehend the role of correct pronunciation to establish worldwide rapport and realize the importance of understandability and comprehensibility of it. Uh, the survey shows how students and professionals look at the same problems, revealing their vision differs entirely in some aspects. Hence, the role of professionals is to raise students' awareness of some problematic points and help them acquire essential skills and knowledge for efficient communication. And the last, including all the problematic issues in the learning process, is substantial. Learners have to realize many troublesome aspects of developing communication. They must comprehend if they start using inappropriate gestures or actions, communication is to be a failure. If it is a business deal, the negotiation is to be collapsed from the very beginning. They must be wary while communicating with different nations. They must better comprehend that pronunciation also matters. Teachers are the people who are responsible for providing all these issues to students. They must raise their awareness of all these aspects in students while teaching. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your attention.